For the final half hour, McArthur in the morning here on this Wednesday. It's an issue that has long been contentious here in the Forest City, fluoride in our drinking water. As recently as last year, London City Council voted to keep it in our city's drinking water, despite warnings from outside medical professionals of its dangers, and of course City Councillor Stephen Orser embarrassingly showing up to the debate with Nazi propaganda, claiming essentially that Hitler put fluoride in the water to brainwash German citizens. But when you get away from the hyperbole and the exaggerated rhetoric, more and more concern seems to be coming to the forefront on the issue of fluoride in water. Just last week, fluoride levels in 4 Oxford County communities documented to be above the province's maximum acceptable concentration. Brownsville, Ingersoll, Lakeside, and Springfield all had values above the threshold and issued warnings. And on Monday this week, the City of Windsor became the latest to vote in favor of taking fluoride out of their drinking water. Eddie Francis is the mayor of the City of Windsor. He voted with the majority in favor, and he joins us here on McArthur in the morning on AM 980. Mayor Francis, good morning, and I appreciate your time.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
All right. How long has fluoridation been a part of your city's drinking water?
Oh, fluoridation's been part of the city's drinking water for decades, going back to the 60s. So it's been there for a long, long time.
All right, similar here to London, but why did you vote in favor of removing it? What was it that specifically swayed you?
Well, I've supported the removal of fluoride, I think the debate centered around the issue of whether or not it became, for me personally, whether or not the public practice should trump the choice of the public to consent to what's in their water. So for me, it was a very simple issue that I needed resolved in my own mind to reconcile whether or not this public practice that's been going on for year after year after year, decade after decade, and whether a municipality and the water department should be adding something, or whether or not people should have the right to choose what it is that's in their water supply. And it is a chemical. It's a chemical that's been added. And the other thing for me in my consideration, and I was unfamiliar with the health unit and the discussions that took place, if you will, in London, I should say, but our health unit made presentations, but we have a number of surrounding municipalities that have never had fluoride in their water. So for me, on direct question of the health unit that came forward to council saying you need to keep it in, if you take it out, it's going to create tooth decay. It's going to accelerate tooth decay. It has such a negative and deleterious effect. You need to keep this in. And for me, the simple question to them was, well, then why aren't you and where have you been in the other municipalities that have never had it, and why haven't you made the argument that they need to put it in?
So that was the advice you were getting from your health unit, because that was similar to what the London Middlesex Health Unit.
Well, your health unit showed up at our debate as well.
Okay, and
we got the same presentation that your elected officials got in London and in the surrounding area, because the Middlesex Health Unit showed up here and made a presentation.
Okay, so this was a moral issue, really, for you, and one that we've debated on this program from time to time, and I feel similar, that despite fluoride, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, there's just something fundamentally wrong about government adding something to your water.
Yeah, and you and I never talked before the show, so I didn't know. I just knew I was coming on to talk about fluoride, so I didn't know your position. And in your prelude, certainly, I was unaware of those stats that you shared, and I'd be interested in following them with the other jurisdictions. But from my perspective, I'm actually my background is chemistry, biochemistry, and when you're talking about adding hydrofluorosilicic acid to the water supply, that's a chemical that you're adding to the water supply. And yes, and trust me, I'm not saying that, and not dismissing anything that what the health officials bring to the table, or their status and their experience. But in all the issues that we've dealt with, this is one of the issues where you're adding a chemical that started 60 years ago. It started as a pilot project in Grand Rapids, and things have changed since then. And the other side, the side that presented the proposal to remove it, brought real data to the table that was very challenging to the status quo. And when you consider all of that, and then on top of that, like I said in response to your earlier question, when I've got a health unit saying you got to put it in, and yet the municipality 5 minutes from here doesn't have it, and they've never made the case that you've got to put it in there, all that being equal, for me, that was my decision to remove it.
What has the citizens' reaction been to the vote on Monday night?
We haven't had any negative reaction. Again, the community here was very well organized, very well informed. It hasn't been a debate, but it's been a process of a year now that they knew that it would be coming to council within the year, and so they took the time to get the information out there, and the pro fluoride removal group took the time to educate the public, but the reaction has not been negative.
Yeah, I was just wondering about the reaction, Mayor, because it seems to me that you've got two very polarized and well-organized interest groups, if you will. You've got the health unit that you've detailed, and you're right, we also have these fluoride groups, anti-fluoride groups, which come into cities and communities and seem to rile up some interest in a bunch of people. And it seems to me that the citizens, I'm not sure if it's something that's really on the top of their mind until this debate is just stirred by these groups.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and it's true. There are two camps, and the two camps have been out in the community for a year now, so there's been a good debate in the community, and you're right, most people sometimes are not aware of things until the decision's made. But what I will share with you, and this is my own assessment, may be right, may be wrong, but I think people today are more informed, more in tune, and more aware of what it is that's in their food supply. And I think with the growing level of concerns that have been raised, more and more people are becoming active to become more knowledgeable about the different things that are added to their food supply. So, whether a month from now or 2 months from now, the public says, "Oh, we want fluoride back in," don't know. But it's been pretty interesting discussion in this community, and it's been something that I think people have been aware of.
Yeah, this is my final question to you. Windsor, are they on the right side of history here, do you think, with this decision? Is this a wave that is, starting to come right across the country as we see more and more cities deciding just what you did this week to take that chemical, to take fluoride out of water?
Well, I think, we made the best decision based on the best information that's in front of us. And whenever you make the best decision with the best information, and as long as it's an informed decision with good intentions, with public good centered around that decision, then you can't go wrong there. Again, we have 3 jurisdictions. We're one of the few areas that is not and was not regionalized. So we have 3 bordering towns that surround the City of Windsor that have not had fluoride in their water, and their population seems to be healthy. Their population doesn't seem to be experiencing this viral growth and tooth decay that the health unit warned about, and it's been like that for decades. So if you're able to remove chemicals from the water supply, and obviously we're going to monitor it, but I don't expect there's going to be major issues given the experiences that I've seen in the neighboring communities in Essex County.
Well, we'll see if many dentists move to the Windsor area, perhaps sensing a bonanza.
Well, it's funny because the neighboring communities don't have a high per dentist capita, so that argument, but we'll see. But at the end of the day, like I said, as long as you're making the best decision based on the information with public good, that's all you can do.
Mayor, appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks. All the best to you.
You as well. There goes Windsor Mayor Eddie Francis. We'll take your calls, your reaction to this after the break at 519-643-2222. On Monday night, Windsor City Council voted in favor of removing fluoride from their water. Do they have it right, and are they on the right side of history? Is this something that eventually you think is going to come here to London, to the Forest City? 643-2222. Back in a moment here on McArthur in the Morning. All right, my thanks to Windsor Mayor Eddie Francis joining us moments ago here on the McArthur Show. I mean, now there's a mayor, right? There is a mayor right there, a guy who can make some bold decisions and well-reasoned decisions. And what a CV, what a resume this guy has got. Not only the mayor of Windsor, also a winner of numerous business awards from the Chamber of Commerce, as the Young Entrepreneur of the Year back in 2003, lawyer, as well as holds a degree in chemistry and biochemistry from none other than the University of Western Ontario here in London. And he cited that in his answer to the question on fluoride, saying with a chemistry and biochemistry background, he does have some concerns about fluoride as a chemical in the water. And also he made the decision to vote with the majority on Monday night to take fluoride out of his city's drinking water on moral grounds, that he just didn't feel right, that it was problematic putting a chemical into the drinking water that at least some of the citizenry has got a problem with. 519-643-2222. Want to get your reaction here in London to Windsor's decision earlier this week. And do you think the handwriting is on the wall here that eventually the wave is that fluoride will indeed be taken out of most, if not all, drinking water? Here's Brian in London. Brian, what do you make of Windsor's decision?
Bravo to them. You know, like Mayor Francis says, anytime you can get rid of chemicals, good, do it. You know, and this whole argument about fluoride, I sit and I laugh when I hear the nonsense and the crap they're trying to feed the public. Myself, my wife, and my two daughters, and the girls now are 21 and 19. We all grew up on reverse osmosis water. We put a system in our home that strips out the fluoride, the chlorine, and all the other chemicals that cause all sorts of problems for our health. It's proven. The studies are there. Just read about it. Colon cancers and everything else. The fluoride and the cavity debate is a joke. Myself, my wife, and my two daughters have never had cavities, and we've drank unfluoridated water now for decades. So that's my thing.
So do you think, Brian, that London is on the wrong side of history right now, and that eventually we are going to fall in line with cities like Windsor and such that have voted to take this chemical out of the water?
I can only hope, Jeff, that we smarten up sooner versus later. You know, we get more than enough fluoride exposure through our toothpaste, and to be quite frank, I'm seriously considering going and visiting the health food store because I think you can get non-fluoridated toothpaste there. It's just ludicrous the amounts of fluoride that we get. And like you were saying earlier, it's so hard to monitor and keep track of the specific levels in our water. And not 9 times out of 10, but a majority of the time, there's more fluoride in our water than's actually called for. So we're getting double doses of this chemical. Like 2 plus 2. This is simple math.
Hey, Brian, thanks. Appreciate the phone call, and that certainly is problematic. He's referencing to something we mentioned at the top of the hour here, and has not been widely reported, but last week fluoride levels in 4 Oxford County communities, including Brownsville, Ingersoll, Lakeside, and Springfield, all had fluoride values above the threshold and issued warnings. Now, the drinking water, the government claiming still safe, but it was just the fluoride levels were above their threshold in those 4 communities in Oxford County. So, I mean, that's concerning and problematic, but I think you win the day with the moral argument, as the Mayor Francis made moments ago here on the air, that just fundamentally he's got a problem with adding chemicals into his citizens' drinking water that to some, such as Brian, do not agree with and don't want in their bodies. And as we all know, I mean, obviously water is something that we need to subsist. Here's Mark in London. Mark, do you think with their decision on Monday, Windsor's on the right side of history when it comes to the fluoride debate?
I think Windsor, Jeff, is on the right side of history. I remember when this came up in London, and you actually had some very good comments on it, and again this morning you do. I think what I was disappointed with London is when our leaders basically said, you know what, we're not going to really hear both sides. You know, we have the medical unit. We're just going to take a step of faith and just trust that these government people know what they're talking about. I was really disappointed in London with that, rather than doing what they did in Windsor and actually looking at both sides and realizing that, you know what, Health Canada is not always on the right side of an issue.
Well, you know, Mark, it seems as if they had, you're right, a fulsome debate there in the Rose City. And I don't know about you, but I was a little surprised to hear the mayor, Eddie Francis, say that the London Middlesex Health Unit visited Windsor to make their claim. They seem pretty militant about fluoride here.
Yeah, they are, and I agree with the mayor of Windsor and yourself that, you know, when it comes to introducing a chemical to the general population, I'll tell you what, you know, we can add that ourselves. If you want, you can brush your teeth twice in a row. Having it mandated, put it in the water, and I'm, by the way, Jeff, the same as him, is we just drink bottled water. We haven't been drinking the city stuff for years, and most people that can afford it will drink bottled water. but it's the poorest of the poor. They're kind of stuck, just having to drink tap water. And I think it's really unfair.
All right, Mark, appreciate the phone call. And again, yes, I'm with you. I think that at the day, the argument that wins the day here is the moral one. I mean, we can sit here and quibble and go back and forth whether or not fluoride really does prevent tooth decay, or if the bad outweighs the good, that it's also associated with all these other diseases. But just fundamentally, don't we have a problem with government saying, listen, this is something that you need to live, you need to subsist, and by the way, we're also going to add this chemical to it, and you're going to have to take that, and you've got no choice.